Howdy folks, today we're going to make West Texas Gazpacho because it's summer and we got tomatoes. Use them or lose them. Okay folks, here are the basic ingredients for West Texas Gazpacho. We were blessed this year by having an abundance of vine-ripened garden tomatoes. I just kind of walked out this morning and picked these. It calls for 8 good-sized red tomatoes. Got more than that here, but you know, I like tomatoes, so we're going to use all these. Little cherry tomatoes I picked. This is just for the cook to munch on while we're eating. Garlic. Usually 6 to 8 cloves of garlic are required. If you're a manly man, you'll want more. If you live in my house, then you will never have vampires. Onions. Usually calls for red or purple onions. I didn't find those, so I found the 4166 sweet white onions in the store, and we'll use those. Of course, cilantro and parsley, but cilantro is the magic ingredient that makes everything fresh and great tasting throughout the summer for most of all your cooking. Then other things that we'll need will be 4 stalks of fresh celery, preferably the interior part of the celery stalks. I peeled off the outer shell and just using the heart. 2 red bell peppers, and then I picked these chilies. These are cayenne peppers that I grew this summer. They start out green, you hang them in the window for a while, and then they get sweet and turn red. So red is the color of the day, so we're going to use mostly all these. Also, secret ingredient, lime, which you'll find in nearly anything that I'm doing. Other ingredients that you'll need would be the 32 ounces of tomato juice. You can use spicy or regular. Extra virgin olive oil, preferably from the southern regions of Tuscany. Pomegranate red wine vinegar, Worcestershire, a little extra cayenne, and to cut up and mix with, and then of course a large stock pot. This is for a double recipe. It will feed like 16 people. Okay, the first thing that I do is to get things that I want pureed almost, finely chopped, is to go ahead and chop up my celery and put it into the food processor. Then I chop up my red and bell peppers and my hot peppers, and you can put them all in together. Add a little bit of liquid from any of these ingredients just to kind of get it up. But the idea is you're going to chop all your veggies up fairly fine, including your onions, which I'll do last because boy, it stinks up when you do that. Okay, I put my peppers, my celery, and I don't want to get it too full. I pulled a little bit of tomato juice in here just to give it some consistency. But basically, you just want to pulse it. Then we take our finely chopped veggies that we just first started on and basically just pour them into your big pot. Okay, I've chopped my onions into big chunks under the vent hood here because all these fumes coming up get trapped up into the vent hood of the cooktop, and then I don't have to have a John Boehner moment when I'm preparing. Since we did 2 large onions, I'm going to do this in 2 stages, because if you fill this thing all the way full of onions and then try to puree it, some of it's going to turn into mush and some of it will still be chunky. So we just take our time and do it in 2 stages instead of 1, and that way it's a little bit better consistency. Okay, on the second batch of the onions, I left it a little tiny bit coarser chopped. That gives it a little more to chew on. We have the finer chopped onions, so we go ahead and put that in our big pot. Okay, garlic. This can be a contentious subject, but I like lots of garlic, and I'm going to use lots of garlic. And if you don't like it, then you should hit the delete button at this point. But there's about 8 good cloves in any bunch, and you just basically hatch out all the little individual cloves from the paper. And then using a broad knife, it's pretty easy to peel these by just smashing them once. And it doesn't matter, and this kind of releases the oil, but when you get them smashed, then the paper just peels off so easily, and then you're left with the clothes. Then you'll take the clothes and just cut the butt end of the clothes off, discard that. But anyway, I'm going to do this for about, I'm going to say about 8 cloves of garlic. Okay, here we have our garlic. If you've ever tried to mince this up, you know, in a blender or even by hand, it's pretty difficult to get it finely chopped. I've went ahead and put the parsley and the cilantro in the food processor because it too is hard to get finely chopped. My wife went and picked some basil, although that's not in the recipe. We're going to go ahead and add the basil also, just to give it that fresh summer taste. That'll be good. Okay, then we put in our cloves of garlic, and there's about 8 or so cloves, and you can do more later and add later if you want. To get this, if you just turned it on, everything would just fling out to the side and stick, and it wouldn't chop very good. So I go ahead and put some olive oil, give it a little viscosity, and even maybe some of the eventual tomato juice, because that's another item that's going in. It's all going to end up in the pot anyway, so this will help it to mince up the garlic and other veggies. Okay, we got our vine-ripened tomatoes here, fresh from the garden. There's just nothing quite like them, but some of them do have a little blemish here and there. And so what I'm doing here is just halving or even quartering the tomatoes, and I come back in and just cut off the stem areas and any other blemished areas that you might see. And this is in getting prepped for getting the tomatoes chopped. And when we're chopping them, we want to leave them pretty chunky, because that's going to give the meat and potatoes taste of our gazpacho. Is you don't want it so pureed that it tastes too much like soup. You want it to be kind of chunky. So after we've got the tomatoes quartered and stemmed, then we can take them over to the food processor and do, oh my gosh, look at that. Holy cow. I mean, don't you just love summer? Hoo-wee. Eat one of these little babies. Oh man. Oh man, is that sweet. Okay, as I said before, we've quartered and de-stemmed our tomatoes. And again, the secret of getting a good consistency with these tomatoes, this is the last of the veggies that we're going to chop up, and you don't want to fill food processor too full. If I were to fill this all the way to the top, then some of it would turn into mush and other parts of it would still be too chunky. So just fill it up about half to 2/3, and here we want to leave this pretty chunky. So we'll turn it down a little bit, and okay, we got the last of our tomatoes here, which we put into our big pot, and then we can start adding our other ingredients. Our other ingredients are Worcestershire. This is the reduced sodium. I didn't mention putting salt in here at all. Now, of course, you always want to put a little salt in something, but a lot of our products, like the tomato juice in a jar, that has sodium in it, so we're not too concerned about that. But in this double batch, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, 1/2 cup of red wine vinegar, you can tell I'm pretty precise about my measurements, Always have to add a little extra cayenne just to get the powdered stuff in there along with the other peppers. Not too much, just a little. And then of course your extra virgin olive oil from the southern region of Tuscany only. Just kidding about that. And we had put a little olive oil in previously to help to blend some of the other things like the garlic, so it calls for about a half a cup of that, so you really can't use too much. Now the rest of the tomato juice needs to be added at this time, and you can just get store-bought. Sometimes you get the spicy stuff. I'm just using regular, it says organic tomato juice, but calls for 1 quart, 32 ounces of that, so the rest of that gets poured in. That's about it. We're going to take a spoon. There's no cooking involved in this, but stir it all up. Now this is pretty chunky stuff, and you can always run it through the food processor more if you wanted a finer consistency. And there you have it. West Texas Gazpacho. You chill this in the refrigerator, and on about the 2nd or 3rd day it gets better and better. Of course, I'm going to have some right away, so I'll let you know how that goes. So we're ready to store this, and what I use is a glass container. It can be plastic, it can be anything, and then a funnel helps. I take a large cup, my largest coffee cup, and basically just start pouring it into. You want to keep it stirred as you go. Okay, here's the finished product. West Texas Gazpacho. It's pretty spicy. I tasted it earlier, and it's a little too hot for my sister Mary, but we gave her about that much to take home. Hope you enjoy.